Welcome back, baseball fans, to another elimination video. Today we're eliminating the Toronto Blue Jays. You're looking at last year's stats first because we wanted to see the transition of what you would expect a Blue Jay team to look like in this timeline, as Toronto did not exist, of course, in the early 70s. So we put a team together for them, and they would be in the American League East getting pummeled by the Orioles, Red Sox, and Yankees. They finished 11-18 a year ago, scored 95 runs, gave up 130. Not a lot to hang your hat on with a 246 average and a 437 ERA. They fought as best as they could with the cards they had. They had 14 total homers, so not much power at all with that 246 batting average. And as far as pitching goes, Alexander did a nice job with a 237 ERA in 60 innings. Grisenda was the closer, had 7 saves, but an unsightly 4.73 ERA, and went to the All-Star game. The rest of the bullpen, Ellsworth, Hartenstein, Klomkowski, was pretty awful. Splittorff was decent. They traded Gary Gentry in the offseason to the Mets for Tommy A.G. So that's what happened last year. And of course, this year, a much different story. It was an outstanding finish for the Blue Jays. Could not quite get to the playoffs. Let's take a look at their 2022 stats. 21-21, but they knocked out the Yankees in the postseason tournament. They played respectably against the Orioles, an Oriole team that imploded against the Texas Rangers and knocked themselves out. And they actually beat the Red Sox 4 out of 6 games. The Red Sox, the only team from the American League to go to the playoffs this year. Team batting average, 247 again, but 51 home runs this year, led by an improved Mike Lum card, hit 329 with a 73 card, 5 homer, 19 RBI. You see Tommy A.G., acquired from the Mets, doing Tommy A.G. things. All 7 of their stolen bases, 279 batting average, 6 homers, 17 RBI. It was Jim Brazil, an extra player card from the Atlanta Braves, 16 homer and 32 RBIs with a 269 average. Also got contributions offensively from Monson, defensively from Bill Voss, Yvonne Morel, Tim Foley. On base percentage from Frank Fernandez. Terry Crowley led off for a nice chunk of the year, though, and hit 144 with a 299 on base, which is rather disappointing. They just don't have the type of player to hit leadoff from this collection. You see 4 guys on the Mendoza line, though Fernandez had some power and Foley had the glove. Moving to the pitching, Grisenda had those 11 saves and back-to-back All-Star appearances. And now look at the bullpen. It was Grisenda, Hennigan, and Ellsworth all pitching outstanding work. And with the number of innings pitched and at-bats this team has, they presently are leading in the Commissioner Award, which is a factor of innings pitched by the least used pitcher and at-bats by the least used hitter. The team with the highest factor gets an extra draft choice in next year's draft. And Toronto currently has that, though the Texas Rangers still have to play, and they could pass the Blue Jays and get that draft pick, depending on how they use their roster against the Twins in their third-round matchup. Again, Doyle Alexander, 253 ERA, led the staff, 3 complete games. The net runs, 173, 183 given up, so it's minus 10. But in the series we just played, they lost 10-1 to Milwaukee. So you throw that game out, which was their starter getting knocked out before a quality start. They're right at 500. And speaking of that, that was Bill Zepp. So he's at the bottom with a 5.80 ERA, but he stuck around and had to pitch 5 innings to courageously save his bullpen. And that made his ERA and WHIP suffer. As you see, he gave up 40 walks in 63 innings. But overall, this was an overachievement on the grandest scale for the Toronto Blue Jays, and it really helped reshape the American League as it knocked the Yankees out, and the Orioles also followed suit. So we don't have that bit of history. The Orioles going back to the playoffs or a World Series. Let's take a look now at the Toronto Blue Jays' magical year of 2022 with a 21-21 record. We're going to pull their 1970 cards out and see who's coming back next year to see if they can still be competitive once we lose their 70 cards. And some good guys here and some not so good guys here, as you would expect. Here are the 8 players that are going to be up for debate, and there's a couple in there, maybe 2 or 3 that we'd like to bring back. And now let's take a peek at who is going to start as the 12 players of the Toronto next year before the draft. They're going to go heavy on offense, which is probably not a good look because they have better pitching staff. They're going to go 8 hitters, 4 pitchers to start next year. And they have Milt May, excellent catcher here. You see, even at 17% against lefties, they gave him the same rough split. We have Brazil, who played third base all year, another extra player card. And this is what you have to optimize. You have to optimize these extra players in these expansion teams, and May and Brazil delivered. Bill Voss also played the outfield, delivered. Tim Foley didn't hit very well, a very young Tim Foley. Very disappointing D hit and runner. We know Tim Foley would later be one of these guys you couldn't strike out, so most likely going to be a B hit and runner one of his future years. Good, still rangy short here as a young player. And they could use his defense. Monzon is in the infield. Voss and Morel made a platoon in the outfield. So, second, third, and short, you have, and a couple outfielders. And you also have, I think you have one more hitter here. It's actually 7 and 5. You have Mike Lum. Lum had a big year with his 73 card, and you can see he can hit left-handed pitching fine, and he can field and throw. So this is really Mike Lum's best year, which was 1973 on that incredible Atlanta team. Atlanta could not keep everybody, of course. So you have the startings of an outfield. Morel, Voss, and Lum. And, you know, you've got some interesting offense there, but you still have holes to plug. Oh, I forgot Carl Taylor as well. You have Carl Taylor, another on-base machine, who could be a platoon with Milt May at catcher, or first base, or DH. So, 8 guys there. And now the 4 pitchers. We talked a lot about Grisenda. He is your closer, a magnificent closer. No reason to think that he won't be the all-star representative again next year if things go south. You have Doyle Alexander with this. This is what happens to the Orioles. They can't keep all their guys. And this Doyle Alexander was pretty good in 106 innings in 72 with a 2.46 ERA. Actually had the 4th best ERA on this team, but better than Mike Cuellar's, which is very strange. I'm assuming that you know, the Palmers and McNallys and maybe the Grant Jacksons of the world had better ERAs, if I was guessing. Hennigan did a decent job as in the bullpen as a relief 3. If you can avoid the long ball, he doesn't put a lot of guys on base. So again, you know, these 12 guys are pretty much guys that all contributed, except for Carl Taylor wasn't used a lot. But Monzon, Brazil, Foley, Voss, Morel platoon, Lum, all these were contributors on this Toronto Blue Jay team that went 500. Can they do it again next year? The answer should probably be, I don't think so. I mean, unless you get outlier years back to back. They finished better than the Pittsburgh Pirates, which is stunning. I mean, you're talking about the world champion Pirates of 71 and a great team in 72 as well versus a fictional team. So Toronto will take a look at their 8 1970 players and see what kind of future does this expansion team have. Okay, folks, let's take a look at these Toronto hitters. The first one is Tommy A.G. Got to think he is going to be their star player for a short term here. At center field defensively, we know all about that. Your 69 World Series champion at age 26. We had a 70 card. He has another good year in 71, and then after that, it starts to get a little iffy in 72 and 3. He's out of the game by age 30. But 71, he'll come back. And in 72, depending on his split, he'll come back, the 227 batting average. But you got to bring him back to make that investment worthwhile. AG as a keeper, 10,000 tokens, units, dollars, whatever. Next player is Darryl Chaney. And this guy had a nice long career of being versatile and a switch hitter. And he maximized that for a decade. Shortstop, second, and third baseman. Utility guys like that often make up players on expansion teams. And also, Chaney batted left-handed in 74 and 75 and during part of 73. Thank you, baseballreference.com. Nice to know. And here you have him splitting his career between the Reds and Braves. He's with the Reds. He would be on that World Series team in 101 plate appearances, and again in 72 with 230 plate appearances. The one potential problem for the Blue Jays is they cannot put him on waivers, as 71, they don't make his card. We don't think they would make his card with 25 plate appearances. I can double check that at the roster sheet, Gary's roster sheets on superds.tripod.com. We'll just take a peek here at the 71 Reds and see if they printed a Darryl Chaney card. Which would be questionable at this point if they did. And the Woody Woodward was the utility guy. No, so he cannot qualify for waivers. So if you want to keep him, it's because you like him in 72, 3, and 4. 72 for the Reds, 250 average, a 345 on base, 682 OPS. That at least requires some investigation. And again, this is Toronto, and utility and versatility is important. So the 72 year of Chaney is the best of the four, between 71 and 74. At this point, I'm going to call him a keeper. Again, switch hitting utility player, and it's 345 on base. I'm going to keep him around. I mean, if I could find better keepers than him, I could push him on. I could push him into retirement, actually, and then he could come out of retirement with a 72 card with a different ball club. And now another guy who played in the Reds in this timeline is Terry Crowley, who also played for Baltimore. Longtime pinch hitter, Terry Crowley, the Crow. So you see he's with Baltimore, with Cincinnati, and then Atlanta and Baltimore. By the timeline here, we had his 257, 782 OPS card in play in 70. Just like Chaney, he also does not have a card in 1971. And if it wasn't very good anyway. So if you keep Crowley, it's because you like his performance in 72, 3, and 4. Now, as a left-handed hitter, that's nice. But as a first base DH with bad defense, most likely a pinch hitter, DH type corner outfielder, you'd like better numbers than 231. That's not good. 319 is not good. 405 is okay, but nothing special. Between Chaney and Crowley, I would value Chaney's positional versatility. Though, let's put him as a keeper because we know he has a 72 card. But you're also tying up 1972 for two of your players of marginal value. So I'm going to put some question marks in this column to remind myself that if you don't want to keep either one of these guys, just put him in retirement. Someone will pick him up in a future year. All right, next player is Frank Fernandez, a catcher who had a good eye, took a lot of walks. From 67 to 72, was a Yankee. I think he was a Dodger also. Yankee, Washington Center. No, it wasn't a Dodger. Oakland and the Cubs. One of these on-base percentage years wasn't created. Oh yeah, this 71 Cub performance. They should have made his card because he played in 1971. He played for Oakland, Washington, and a second stint with Oakland. Separate stints in 1971 with Oakland. Interesting. And then the Cubs. But look at this the performance. A 171 batting average, but a 414 on base. That would have been a fun to look at card. A goofy looking card. Moreover, he actually did have 110 plate appearances in 71. But Strat does not make his card. We can confirm that. And in 72, he's out of the game. So I think he has to go in retirement. Unless we can find a 1971 Frank Fernandez card. And we have to dig. Oakland, Washington, or the Cubs. Looking for Frank Fernandez. Calling Frank Fernandez. Oakland, Washington, and the Cubs. Are you anywhere? Well, Oakland and Washington are both there. Not listed as a catcher. Or an outfielder, infielder, outfielder. Blefrey, Hegan, Klomkowski, Rowland. Broberg, Burrows, Floyd, Riddleberger. So we're left with the Cubs. Canizero, J.C. Martin. And the Cubs, Banks, Decker, Ortiz, Ron Tompkins. Sadly, Frank Fernandez's career is over. That is a shame. That would have been fun to have a 1971 card of Frank Fernandez. We have to retire him. All right, next up, we're going to move to the pitching staff. Bill Zepp. He did okay up until his final start of the year, where he had to stick around in a game that he was broken and his ERA got lit up. But otherwise, he pitched well all year for Toronto with his 70 card, and that would be his only year, unless they make his 71 Tiger card with 31 innings. Let's go check the Tigers. Again, these expansion teams, you really want to check things with a fine-tooth comb here. You got to put some guys on waivers and retire guys. There's no Zepp there. And there is no Zepp there. So he is on retirement. Bill Zepp. Okay. Next pitcher, Tom Phoebus. Another Baltimore pitcher who they couldn't hold on to. From 66 to 72. So Tom Phoebus, short, 5'8", 1966, 22 innings in a World Series year. I don't know if he was on the World Series roster or not. In 70, he would have been with this card we just used. He does have a card in 71 for the Padres because he threw 133 innings. And in 72, he pitched for the Cubs. He didn't do either thing well, so he qualifies for waivers. I guess I should always double check, make sure we have that 71 card for the Padres. But it should be there, and it is. Okay, good. All right, two more pitchers to analyze. Ron Klomkowski. He had a year with the Yankees, 69 to 72. And 70 was that great year we just saw. A .114 whip and a .265 ERA. Does he qualify for waivers with his 71 year in Oakland in 45 innings with Oakland? Let's go check it out. Oakland. Klomkowski for Oakland. Don't see him there. There he is. He's an extra player for Oakland. Okay, so you could keep him or waive him with his 71 year. Let's take a look at this year a little closely. And in just 45 innings, had a whip of 132, which is just okay, but good enough for an expansion team. I think at this point I want to keep him because he was a relief starter, and I only have 3 keepers thus far. So let's keep Klomkowski, just in case we don't have anybody else we want to keep. Which brings us to the end of the list, which is Dick Ellsworth. Dick Ellsworth was very good in the bullpen this year until the final game of the season. Long career. Dick Ellsworth. The Cubs, and then Philadelphia, Boston, Cleveland, a bunch of teams at the end here. So in 70, this is the card we used, split between Cleveland and Milwaukee. Was overall 3.79 ERA. And in 71, he only pitched 14 2/3 innings with Milwaukee. I'm sure that should not have made a card for Milwaukee. In 71, Mr. Ellsworth. Milwaukee Ellsworth, no. So he has to be retired. And that's why we do this analysis this deep. And if you look at that, you barely got your 4 keepers with Darryl Chaney and Terry Crowley. After we thought they might go in retirement, we want to keep them. Again, this is an expansion team. So you're going to keep 71 AG, the 72 Chaney and Crowley, and I guess 72 Klomkowski. They may want to make a trade so they can get into the 73 and 74 seasons. They have 3 retired guys and only 1 waived guy. So they're going to have to get on the clock in the off season and make some moves to improve their lot. They did in last offseason. They got on the phone and acquired Tommy AG. So they're going to have to get on the phone again. And again, maybe we saw a big year out of Jim Brazil. Maybe he's a trade chip now. Maybe Milt May, a good catcher, is a trade chip now. Maybe Mike Lum's a trade chip. Doyle Alexander. They're just going to have to make some trades to, just to stay on fielding a competitive roster. But not bad. It was a great year for the Blue Jays. Nothing to be disappointed about. They're really not supposed to, have a winning record, frankly. And there's not a lot that history would suggest that they could avoid that happening when you're playing against Baltimore, Boston, and New York in the American League East. It was the perfect situation this year as the Orioles and Yankees collapsed unexpectedly, and Toronto seized that opportunity. And that's the story for the Blue Jays in the year 2022. Thanks for checking this elimination video out. We'll see you next time.